Hey, hey, hey. I am so excited to be here with you all, and I really just want to welcome you all to the Awaken You podcast with Amy Beth. That is I. I am your host. My name is Amy, and I am so incredibly excited and just a little bit nervous to be here with you all. This is something that I've been dreaming of for quite some time now, and I just finally said, let's do this. I've so much to share. I just really want to branch out and reach as many women as I possibly can so that they can create their own world of healing as well. So let me tell you a little bit about what I do, how I can support you, and let's just have some fun. As adults, we really lose that side of us, and this is just about sharing and having fun. So if you want just to know a little bit more about me, keep listening, and I would love if you guys could share with me too. I'm always interested to know about the people that are out there in my community. So with all that said, I am a mindset coach. What even is that? What's a mindset coach? What do you do? I quite often hear a lot of confusion around that. And the best way I can kind of explain it is it's generally someone, a coach, who supports you with how you feel and your approach to life. Now, it's going to be different for each individual coach that you come across. We all have our signature, and we all have our own special expertise, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Some of us will be very logical in the way we approach things. Some of us will be a little bit more in the spiritual realm. Some of us will cross over. It really does just depend on the experiences of life that coach has had and the people that they feel that they can support best. So we are not all the same. And so I want you to think about it more like a teacher. How many of you have had a teacher at school maybe when you were younger? And if you look at the range of teachers that you had, one of them was amazing. You just clicked with them. Everything they taught you, you were just able to understand it really easily. The others, they weren't necessarily terrible, but there was just no connection there. And then some of them, I'm sure we've all had those teachers, unfortunately, where you don't learn much from them, you don't connect with them, their teaching style just doesn't fit you. And so it is very much the same in this realm of life coaching, mindset coaching. You are going to have those you don't connect with. You're going to have those that are in the middle ground, and then you're going to have some who will end up being like your best friend, and you learn so much from them. And I can say that from personal experience. I've been on this journey now for probably close to 10 years, and for at least the last 6, I've had what I would like to now call a mentor. I've had my own holistic counselor for about 6 years, and she's been a pivotal part of my own personal growth and really achieving the life that I've created for myself now. For me, it started out late teens, early 20s. I unfortunately grew up in quite a chaotic home. Looking back now, it probably fell under the umbrella of domestic violence, but for a lot of us, you don't know that that's not normal, and so there was a lot of chaos, there was a lot of fearful moments, but it wasn't until later that I really noticed how that affected me as a human and as an adult. So I went on this journey, and I was very fortunate that an ex-boyfriend's family member was a Reiki therapist. Now, it was actually she who introduced me to the holistic approach. And after a little bit of exploration, I started to really dive into my own personal healing. Now, at the time, this would have been early 20s. I was probably 20, 21. I was unofficially diagnosed with a condition called fibromyalgia. Now, it is actually quite a common condition, but it's very hard to diagnose because it has a lot of symptoms, and it mimics things like chronic fatigue and a couple of other autoimmune diseases. So it can be, there's no real test for it. It's just one of those, you have to check all the symptoms and see how you go. But basically you experience symptoms that include widespread pain and tenderness throughout the body, and it's often accompanied by severe fatigue and problems with memory and concentration. So I was at a point in my life where I believe I was working at Subway at the time, so the shifts were about 8 hours, but by the time my shift had ended, I could barely stand up. I'd be hunched over the prep benches. I could barely walk at times. I was so foggy. I don't actually know how I was functioning half the time. I'd come home from work and I'd sleep for 3 hours until dinner time, and then I'd go to bed pretty much straight after and have another 10 hours sleep. So looking back, I was absolutely completely run down, and my body was just saying stop. I couldn't do any more than what I was doing. But it wasn't just physical, it was emotional, it was everything. And so my body was physically crying out, saying like, slow down, stop what you're doing, this needs to be looked at. Because ultimately I wasn't happy. I was just coasting through life, doing what I thought I should be doing. I had no direction. I had no drive to do or be anything. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So that was a really pivotal turning point for me. And after then really diving into that deep healing space, I was able to see that there were so many things that were unresolved from my childhood, so many beliefs and patterns that were no longer serving me, that were keeping me in this place where I felt stuck and unhappy. And it's not to say that I didn't have love and support and my childhood didn't have happiness, or that I didn't have those things. Like, I traveled overseas, I'd been on holidays, my family were incredibly supportive and they loved me very much. And I still had all of those things, but it wasn't enough for me to really create the life that I needed, unfortunately. There was more to it than that. So as time went on, I went deeper and I did lots and lots of work with my holistic psychologist, holistic counselor. And again, going back to those childhood beliefs and clearing a lot of those out. And vast majority of the work has been done in the last 18 months to 2 years. I just couldn't understand why, even after putting in all this work, my life was still seemingly falling apart around me. I could never make anything stick. I couldn't make those lasting changes, and everything felt so hard all the time, and I just couldn't understand why. And I came across another coach who was absolutely incredible, and it uncovered a whole new world for me in terms of core trauma. And I was able to pinpoint the moment where those beliefs had come from, where everything had shifted for me, and really started to undo everything that I had internally created for myself. And then everything started to change. My relationship, I was able to repair it. I was engaged a few months later to my now fiance. We're planning our wedding. I stepped out of the 9-to-5 rut that I had been in and finally stepped into the business as a whole, full-time, earning twice the amount that I was on a weekly basis. And I managed to do it in a matter of months. Like, it was inside of 6 months that I made all of these changes once I really found that moment to shift everything. So, like, all of these things that I found, that I've learnt, they helped me become who I am. And all of these things that I've learned, I want to pass them on to everyone, to as many people as I possibly can, because having the knowledge is one thing, but having the understanding from a really deep inner knowing that you have the ability to make these changes and you have the ability to create the life you want, it's so empowering. And that's something that I'm so passionate about, and I just love seeing my clients make these changes on a daily basis and really changing their lives as a process. And the real deep reason as to why I'm doing this, like my why, is because I want to empower women to heal their junk, to heal what's stopping them, to heal themselves from feeling stuck and struggling and being too busy and thinking that they have to be everything and do everything. So that if they choose to have children, their children are never going to have to know what it's like to feel less than worthy or less than amazingly incredible like they actually are, and understand how to manage finances and understand how to manage relationships with other people and show up confidently even when they're failing, and just know that it's okay to fail. I want the next generation of children to be born with so much confidence that, you know, there's no doubt when they show up in a space, they can just feel free to really be themselves and do what feels good to them. So for me, being able to facilitate this space and start to share my knowledge with all of you out there listening, I know that that is going to move. You know, think of it like a wave. If I can just create a tiny ripple here in my little space, eventually that's going to create a tidal wave out there. And so that's my why. That's where I'm so passionate. And it was just a natural progression. You know, I started as a Reiki therapist eventually because I'd seen how much that had shifted for me personally. And then eventually I've always been so good at listening. You know, I believe my mum made a comment years ago about I would always attract the children that you would essentially say had issues. You know, I just wanted to help them and hold them and love them so much. I was such a little mum even when I was younger. So, you know, nurturing and providing a space for people was something that I was doing unknowingly. And so the older I got and the more I moved into this space of support and healing and growth, I realized that that was my natural ability. That was something I've always been incredibly great at. And so I capitalized on that. It could become a job. It could become something that I could do long term. And once I really stepped into that as well, that space, it was, everything changed. It was like I had purpose. I had inspiration. I had drive. And so it created this space that we're now in. And don't get me wrong, it's had its challenges. I still struggle with certain things every day, but that's life. You have your ups and downs, you have your challenges, you have the things that really can stress you out at times, but it's learning to bounce back from those things and not make the failures mean anything about you as a person that really drives that change that, you know, I've now created for myself and I'm supporting my clients to do for themselves as well. So, you know, looking at that moving forwards and some of the things that I'd love to discuss and that will be shared within this space in upcoming episodes is really looking at how I do that, how I support my clients and how I'll support you guys out there to do the same thing. And I work under what I call pillars. And so those 4 pillars that I look at are relationship with yourself, the relationship you have with others, the relationship you have with your finances, and the relationship you have to performance overall. Now, a lot of those do intertwine. They cross over quite a bit. But the brilliant part about these pillars is that it really allows you to see which areas of your life you're struggling with the most. And that gives me a really good place to start to support you and to support my clients. And the key there is that I'm able to go, right, this is where we need to make some changes, and we'll see some changes in that space relatively quickly because you can see clearly that needs the most support, rather than just going, yeah, this will work, that'll do, here you go, there you go. Like everything that I do with my clients, I've done for myself as well. I don't give you anything that, you know, I don't give anyone anything that I haven't tried before. It's tried and tested for me personally. What's the point of giving advice if you don't know what it feels like to be on the other end of it? So for me, it really is a personal journey that just spread outwardly into the wider community, and creating these pillars has again been a really integral part of being able to support them that way. And so those pillars are going to be the discussions that we have moving forwards in some of these episodes, and it'll give you a little bit more insight into the ways in which you're unconsciously and subconsciously sabotaging your life, how you're stalling and keeping yourself stuck from having all the wonderful things that are actually available to us in this world. So each episode is essentially going to have what's called a sub-pillar. So you've got the main pillars there, the 4 of them that we talked about, and then under each of those there are sub-pillars, which is all the bits and pieces that fit into that we work towards. So I'll be discussing those with you over the next coming weeks, and I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited to share it. And as I said before, just have some fun with it. You know, it's really getting back to that childlike curiosity and childlike love for the world. You know, we lose that as adults and we think we have to be all professional and have our shit together all of the time. But how good does it feel to just, you know, go to the beach and swim around, go to a theme park, ride all the rides, watch, you know, I'm an avid Disney fan. I love Disney. There's just a piece of information. There you go. That for those of you who are close to me will already know that. For those of you that don't, like, I have a mermaid tattoo on my rib cage, and I have loved The Little Mermaid for as long as I can think of. You know, it literally shows up everywhere. Like, I collected something from Woolworths. She's The Little Mermaid. I don't remember what they're called, but you know. I love that. For me, that connects me to that childlike part of myself, that it keeps me feeling young and fresh and just allows me to connect to the joy that's available to us and the happiness that's available to us. You know, life doesn't always have to be so serious, and that's something that I preach as much as I can and really help you get back to. So listening to that part of yourself that says, like, hey, you know what, go and roll around in the grass on a sunny day if you know you're not like me and have sensitive skin, or go and splash around in the ocean, or do some painting, or get really creative. Like, these are the types of things that we'll be talking about, and these are the types of things that are really, really important moving forwards. So that's what will happen moving forwards. But I'll leave it there. As I said, this introduction episode is really just to give you guys a broad understanding of who I am, where I came from, what the hell it is that I actually do, and what you guys can expect moving forwards. So I'd love some feedback if you guys listen back to this and there's anything that you want to discuss. I'm always open to suggestions. If you want to reach me, you can grab me on Instagram at AmyBethAU. You can click the link in my bio, and that'll also take you to my YouTube channel, which has some meditations in there. You'll be able to see myself on the video if you want to watch the podcast. Alternatively, you'll be able to find the podcast on all the normal platforms as well. So if you go on to, the podcast app, you should be able to find me in there too, just under Amy Beth, or Awaken You with Amy Beth. So I'll leave it there, and I'm super, super excited for what's to come. I hope you all have a magical week, and I will speak to you all really, really soon. See you guys.